العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى كل ملائكة المقربين وعلى عباد الله الصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this way of life, for this Islam. Had it not been for Allah's guidance, you and I will not have been in any position to guide ourselves into this. So therefore all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the nourisher, the sustainer, the evolver, the molder, the shaper, the capacitated master of creation. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon the last and final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household and companions, and all those who follow him until the end of time. My dear brothers in Islam, I'm very glad, I'm very happy to be part and parcel of this community. This is the second time, I believe, or third time that I'm giving talks here. And the warm reception is overwhelming. I can't quantify that. So I'm bringing you greetings from Seattle, Washington, United States, to each and every one of you. Zaytun Dawa Institute is saying salam to all of you. And my greetings also to the community here in this Masjid al-Nur in Abuja that make it easy for me to be here and to present my talks. As was announced today, inshallah, the topic of my presentation is going to be the scientific miracles of Qur'an. Now, what is miracle? Miracle is a feat that transcends the physical law of nature. Miracle is an act beyond the rationale of our thinking. Miracle is impossibilities. So if this is miracle, what is science? Science is reasoning. Science is analysis. Science is quantifying. Science is discarding some theories and allowing new ones to develop. That is how science progresses. So when we juxtapose this position and say Quran and science, what do we mean by that? Are we trying to complement the Quran through science, or we're trying to complement science through the Quran? We're doing neither. Science is a self-repairing enterprise. It grows as time goes on. Reasoning and research allow scientists to discard some few, or something that they develop. And that is how science progresses. Discarding some elements, making room for new elements to thrive. And that is science. And therefore, most of the time I give an example of us who live in the western part of the world. The Westerner is always thinking, is always asking questions, is always reasoning and processing information that comes to mind. So what do we mean by Islam and science? I thought science is modern. How could Quran correlate with science? At the very beginning, Allah in His wisdom, He made some information in the Quran. That information, I'm going to read it out. And I want you to analyze it. See how Allah in His wisdom presented those Quranic verses that have to deal with thinking. You know, when the messenger began his ministry in Mecca, the status quo were attacking him, saying that he's not a prophet at all, and that he is deceived by some spirit that is unseen. They even claimed that he copied the Quran from the ancient books, Torah and the Injil, juxtaposed with the Arabian tradition. That is what they claimed. Well, if that is the case, Allah immediately presented some information, and Allah said, "Qul, tell them, O Muhammad, لَإِنِّ اجْتَمَعَتُ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لَا يَأْتُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ وَلَوْ كَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ ظَهِيرًا." The whole of mankind and jinn were to come together to write a book like the Quran, they will not be able to do it. Think with me, brother and sister, this verse is not humanic. We don't talk like that. Why would the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam put on such a serious challenge mankind and jinn. What if mankind and jinn brought it? It means there will be no Islam. But whosoever presented this verse has to have an in-depth knowledge of all things. That is why Allah, with firmness and surety, mankind and jinn will never be able to do it. The Arabs, they were listening. They speak Arabic. They were listening. Allah is expecting them to bring someone to write a book to supersede the Qur'an. They didn't do it. Few years towards the end of the time that the messenger lived in Mecca, Allah sent another verse. Am yaquluna naftara? Do they say he, Muhammad, forged the Quran? Qul fa'atu bi ashri surin mislihi muftarat. If indeed you say Muhammad wrote the Quran, all right, then bring 10 surah, forge like the Quran, and bring your witnesses if you're speaking the truth. The Arabs, they were listening, they couldn't do anything. Towards the end in Medina, towards the end of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's, messengership, at the very end, Allah released the third ayah. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Allah said, فَإِن لَّن تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. If you are in doubt as to the message we've given our apostle, then bring one surah this time, forge like the Quran, and bring your witnesses if you're speaking the truth. Allah said, you can never do it. You will not be able to do it. If that is the case, prepare yourself for a fire whose fuel is man and stone. Clearly, Muhammad couldn't write this information. Impossible. So the Arabs, you know what they did? What they did? وَقَالُوا, and they say, لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ وَالْغَوْا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَغْلِبُونَ. Don't listen if Muhammad read the Quran, but make some noise in between his recital so that your voice will be up and no one will listen. Man, that is a weak argument. Bring your witnesses. Now you're going to make noise? This is the Lord of the Arab of yesteryears, and today we have some Orientalists writing books on internet, social media, claiming that Islam or the Quran have nothing to offer mankind in the world that we live in. Now the Quran is a copy from the ancient Arabic text mixed with the Judeo-Christian religion. That the messenger Muhammad thought that he's a messenger. Indeed, he's not a messenger. He was deceived by some unseen forces. Matter of fact, he went through epileptic mode and he came out with this rambling jumbo jumble of this Quran. That's what they say. So how would you deal with this anomaly? There is a man in America who wrote so many books. His books have been translated many languages, Carl Sagan. Now, recently, few years ago, about 15 years ago, knowledge of animals have come to play. Those who specialize on research of animals. And among them is Peter Krause. Peter Krause is one of the best minds in the behavior of animals. And he wrote a book. And in that book, he made mention of a miracle akin to one particular animal, that is the camel. So in that book, he said, he gave us about 25 attributes and mysteries in the camels. But he's late. It's less than 20 years he came out with this information. He was clapped all over the world, given Nobel Prize and money that he came about with this research of the Quran. Of an animal, and he ended up with the camel. But this is what Allah said. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِّيَتْ. 3. scientific application in one verse, beginning with the camel. Afala, don't you see how camels are created? In other words, what's wrong with you? Look at the camel. There are some mysteries in the camel which you don't know. So when this verse came, the messenger Muhammad was ridiculed. The Arabs, they said, Abul Qasim, what's wrong with you? We ride on camels, man. We take a trip from one place to another on a camel. We eat the flesh. We use the skin to cover ourselves and we make tent with it. Why are you telling us about the camel? Oh, so your God is talking about animals now? Don't your God have something serious to say about animals? What are you talking about? Afala yanzuruna. But today, Professor Krauss wrote a book. In that book, he gave a lot of mystery of animals, but that of the camel supersedes them all. He said, the camel is the sheep of the desert. Or is the sheep, I'm sorry, a sheep of the desert. Look at the mystery of camel. You know, the camel weighs close to a ton and over. That means the camel is, the weight of the camel is close to a small or a medium-sized, pickup truck. Very heavy. Coupled with that, the camel is loaded with goods that they make business from one nation to other nation. And the camel is gliding on the soil of the desert. Think, if you go to the desert and you begin to walk in the sun, even though you're walking, but you keep coming back. You see, you walk, but it draws you back because you sink in the camel. The camel does not sink. It is so heavy, it should sink. It got load also, it must sink. The camel does not sink. Why? At the ankle of a camel is, a mechanism that looks like a shock absorber at the base of the ankle. So the camel actually glides on the desert. It doesn't sink. So Allah said, Afala yanzuruna ila al-ibili kayfa khuliqat? Don't you see how we created the camel? The camel is the only animal that have in-depth photographic memory. Most animals have memories, but the camel own is too deep. Why? Scientists say that. They said anywhere the camel step on, it goes to the back of his brain. It's like a fire. The camel, anytime or anywhere the camel make a step, it stays at the back of his brain. He never forget that area. Can you imagine right now if I'm going to give you, or you're going to give me a direction, go to Astor Rock, but just go straight. It's a gas station, make a left. Towards the end, there's a yellow house. You give directions with some, identifiable locations. But imagine when you live in the desert. Back then, in the 7th century, over 1,000 years, desert sea. You look at the desert from here to like 20, 40 miles away of sand dune. How can you give someone a direction? Allah gave them who live in the desert a camel. The camel have photographic memory to help them traverse in the desert. Within a few minutes, if there is a sand dune, within 5, 6, 7 minutes, the shifting wind will make it flat again. So if you give somebody a sign, just go behind the sand dune. Within a few minutes, the shifting wind will make it flat. How can you sustain, the direction? But the camel helped the dwellers of the desert. Anytime it moves, if you have a black cloth and you tie the face of the camel and you ride the camel from here to, let's say, Kubwa, and you turn the camel around, the camel is going to walk on the same place that he took 15 minutes ago without making any turn. Because anywhere it sets its feet, there is a photographic memory. The camel stored it there. So Allah said, "Afala yanzuruna ila al-ibili kayfa khuliqat." If you can get very close to camel, try that. I did that once in Hadejia some years back. Go close to the camel. If the camel doesn't know you, it might spit on your face. But if you get very close, look in the eye of the camel. There is a brown, dark linen. It's like a line, which acts as a windshield wiper because of the immense of the desert sand. When the sun is too much, it comes out, overlap naturally, it wipes. It's like a windshield wiper, wiping the eye of the camel. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The camel actually dodges the heat wave. 90 degrees, 120 degrees in the Arabian desert or the sub-Saharan desert beyond Mali, going to Libya, very, very hot. The camel doesn't feel the heat. Why? At the hump of the camel, there is, that hump, it does two things. Number one, it stores fats so that the camel will have more energy to walk. The second thing it does, there is something within the hump. If you shave the hump, you see a tiny, holes. Science called that somites. What it does is that it absorbs the heat ray of the camel. The heat goes straight to the chute in the back. In other words, the camel dodges the heat. So in the evening, when it's time for the camel to rest, it's a beautiful thing to see. It locks its leg like this and go down. Once it goes down, the hump opens up and the heat evaporates. The camel dodges the heat. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The part of the camel that touches the ground when it's too hot is 10 times thicker than the regular body. All the part that touches the ground, if the camel goes down, is 10 times thicker than the body or the rest of the skin. Why? Because the camel does not feel the heat. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. In the stomach of the camel is 3 ruminant chambers. The one that it eats and digests. The second one is where it stores its water. If a camel walk right now outside, drink water that is dirty water, wallahi, within few minutes, that water will turn itself to become pure water. It's not too hot, not too cold. In between. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. So back then, the Arabs who live in the desert, they want some water. Water is precious. They kill a whole camel, eat the meat, whatever they could take, maybe take the skin and drink the water. But now, the Johnson & Johnson pharmaceutical company have developed a mechanism. That mechanism, you just simply spray at the base of the camel's stomach. Leave it for a few minutes. Once you're done, get a knife and cut it. The camel does not feel the pain. It's like anesthetic. So you could just go through and grab, the stomach the one that have the water. Drink the water, make wudu, push it back, spray it again. Few hours, the camel is back to normal. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. And on. All the animals, they produce their own vitamin C if they eat, whatever they eat. But the camel is in the desert. Is the only animal that produces its own vitamin C to be able to live in the desert. There is no vegetation. Allah gave the camel an elongated tongue. It goes through the thorn. It's so beautiful. If you see the camel with the tongue going around, the thorns, pick up the leaves and turn it around again and swallow it. This is a mystery. It doesn't poke the sensitive, tongue of the camel. That is a mystery that scientists cannot explain. وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِّعَتْ. That means Allah wants us to look at the heaven and see what is it that Allah is talking about the heaven. The heaven have so many parts. It is one of the most wonderful design that Allah have given mankind, with all these canopies and stars and comets and asteroids and galaxies and quantum and quasars that are permeating all the horizon in the celestial. That is the heaven. But I want to draw your attention. You see, on earth, so Allah asks a question. أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ هَلِكٍ أَمِ السَّمَاءَ بَنَاهَا رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا فَسَوَّاهَا. Are you more difficult to create than the heaven He raised? هَلَكَ السَّمَاوَاتِ بِغَيْرِ عَمَدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا. Look at this space here. This is pillar. 1, 2, 3. What? To hold this small little space here? How much we spend here? Allah said, halaka samawat bigayri amadin tarawnaha, as you can see. In the Quran, halaka samawat wal ard. Samawat wal ard, meaning Allah created the heaven before the earth. You created the ground. Allah said, no, I created the heaven before the earth. How can you create something to suspend? To show you his power and magnificence. He said, halaka samawat wal ard. Samawat wal ard. There's no pillar also. Bigayri amadin tarawnaha, as you can see. We have 9 planets in the solar system. 9. So far that we know. They're huge. The biggest of them all is Jupiter. Jupiter is so huge. It's a gaseous planet. But do you know how many times the Earth will fit inside Jupiter? 1,400 times. Jupiter is a planet just like the Earth. But the Earth that we live in, you need 1,400 Earths to fit inside Jupiter. Jupiter is huge. Science don't know how many moons does Jupiter has. Some say 12, some say 9. They don't know. It's too huge. It is suspended as we are suspended. So generally we think that we are on the ground. No, there is no ground. We are all suspended. You look at the moon. Oh, look at the moon. If you on the moon, say, oh, look at the earth. We are all suspended. So if there is no force of gravity and you begin to fall, you keep on falling in the outer space for billions of years. There's no ground. We are all suspended by virtue of what? The gravity. The gravitational forces, that is what keep us together. If Allah remove it, we keep on falling. We keep on falling and falling for million years. No ground. There is nothing like ground. We just hanging around on the earth. Gravity make us, if you throw something, it's got to come down. The force of gravity. Some stars and planets don't have, gravity. Like Jupiter, they don't have you can't even live on Jupiter because it doesn't have all the attribute to make it possible for you and me and plant and animal to strive. So Jupiter is big. Imagine 1,400. Jupiter is huge. All right. Now that we understand how big Jupiter is, let's see how small is Jupiter compared to the sun, our sun. Let's suppose the stadium here, the National Stadium. Let's suppose the arena inside is the sun. Jupiter will be like one basketball in the pitch. So where is Jupiter? Where is Jupiter? So how many basketball will fit inside the complex where they play the soccer? If that complex is the sun, Jupiter will be nothing inside. Yet Jupiter will take in the earth 1,400 times. It's too huge. Sun made with 2 elements, hydrogen and helium, and few other galactic dust. These 3 elements make up the sun, and all of them begin with H. Hydrogen is He. Helium is H. Washams waduhaha. It all ends with He. Is it coincidence? That is the miracle that boggles the mind of man, that mankind cannot quantify how big the universe and the greatness of the celestial. Allah said, the heaven. Think about the heaven. Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahar la ayatin li ulil albab alladhina yazkuruna Allaha qiyaman wa qu'udan wa ala junubihim wa yatafakkaruna fi khalqi samawati wal ard rabbana ma khalaqta hadha batila subhanaka faqina azaban nar. Allahu Akbar. In the creation of the heaven and the earth and the alternation of night and day are indeed signs for those who reflect, who think, who rationalize, who process information. Intellectuals. Allah is talking about men of knowledge. So now that we know that Jupiter is nothing, let's see how big is the sun that we are, the sun. We live on a galaxy called the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy have more than 500 billion other sun our sun, over 4 to 500 billion other suns in the Milky Way. So how can you find Jupiter? How can you even find the sun if you are in Jupiter, if you are in Milky Way? Subhanallah. Our neighbor galaxy, we live in the Milky Way galaxy. Our neighbor galaxy is called Galaxy Andromeda MX. It is 5.3 light years away. Subhanallah. Our neighbor, my neighbor is the Sheikh here. Our neighbor galaxy is 5.3 light year, and each light year is 6 trillion miles. So 6 trillion times 5.3, whatever number you have, is the nearest galaxy. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. How can you quantify this? That's what Allah said. La halqu samawati wal ard akbaru min halqin nas walakinna aksara an-nas la ya'lamun. Most of mankind do not know. The galaxy is powerful, emitting radiations. Okay, beside the galaxy, we have something called, it's also a galaxy, but it is over billion, trillion times bigger than the galaxy. The quantums. Each quantum contains hundreds of thousands of galaxies around it, like a bunch of grapes. We call it cluster, supercluster. Clusters are much bigger than galaxy. Each cluster, imagine a bunch of grapes and make it to be a cluster. How many grapes around it? A lot. Those grapes represent one galaxy. So if you are in the cluster, where can you find your galaxy? Where can you find the sun? Where can you find the earth? Where can you find Africa? Nowhere. Nothing. Infinitesimal. Then we have supercluster. Then we have primordial matters. Then we go back, we go back to the Big Bang theory itself. So clearly, وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ, Allah protected it. Because had Allah will, there are so many, planets, quantums and quasars, asteroids and comets that have lost their energy moving at the speed of light in the horizon. They're moving at the speed of light, billions of them. Speed of light is 186.3 thousand miles per second. That is like me going to United States over 10,000 times within 1 second. Is it possible? How can I go to United States 10,000 times within 1 second? It's beyond our thinking. If you think, your brain will explode. Allah's creation is so serious. So Allah protected all these things so we don't see. If Allah allow one cosmic ray that have lost their energy, millions of them, once they get to our earth, Allah will send them back to where they came from. Allow all the good radiation to come in for our own benefit. Allah protected it. We are protected from bombardment of all these elements. Yet, we don't worship Allah. Yet, we take it for a jest. All these things indicate the power and magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It does. There is a man, a scientist by the name Van Allen, Professor Van Allen. He specialized on atmospheric pressure. He was the first to theorize that there is a belt protecting the Earth atmosphere as a whole. We are protected with a belt. But those belts, you can see that. You need sensor, some mechanism to be able to beam in the heaven and to see that they are a deliberate, a protective layer Allah has set for so that we don't get bombardment. If Allah allow one single entity to come, stampede, finish, we're gone. So Allah said, وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ سَقْفًا مَخْفُوزًا وَهُمْ عَنْ آيَاتِهَا مُغْفِلُونَ. We set up in the heaven a protected layer for you, safe and well guiding you, yet you playing games with my ayats. How could the messenger Muhammad Sallam in the desert write in the Qur'an I'm going to write in my Quran, جَأَنَّ السَّمَاءَ سَقْفًا so that the world will know. You have to be an ingenious physicist, astrophysicist. This is quantum mechanics, quantum numbers. How could the messenger know that he said there is a protective layer guarding us? وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ سَقْفًا مَحْفُوظًا, protected. How could he know? But this is the man of knowledge. So Allah is talking about knowledge. That's why we have Iqra as the first revelation. Read. Knowledge is power. Power is knowledge. Everything that you think of today, it's all about knowledge. If you have knowledge, you got everything. Knowledge is power. But we refuse to read. That is why they use it as a punching bag, as a doormat. We were the first to champion the cause of education back in the 9th century. The Europeans were in the KG, they don't have no education. That was the golden age of Islam. And the Arabic language used to be the lingua franca of all the world. You must speak Arabic to be able to be part and parcel of the learned community. But what happened today? Anything that is negative, they say Muslim. No, that's not true. We were there from the very beginning. We were there from the very beginning. And Allah have explained everything in the Quran. So the men of knowledge are seeing that now, all those years. Allah gave us all in the Quran over 1,400 years ago. We have all this impossible knowledge that can be found in the 7th century. Who told Muhammad all this information? Allah is the one that gave him bit and bit of this information. So Allah said, وَيَرَى الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ هُوَ الْحَقُّ وَيَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. Those with knowledge, O Muhammad, they will come eventually and they will know that Allah sent you and that you are on the right track. Men of knowledge. Allah asked a question. هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ؟ Are those who know the same as those who do not know? No, they are not. So yours, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to present the Quran. Just present the Quran. It is Allah who will make the Quran to be functioning as time goes on. In huwa illa zikrun lil alamin wa la ta'lamunna naba'ahu ba'dahin. This Quran is for the whole of mankind. But as time goes on, mankind will come to understand the implication of the Quranic truthfulness. And that's what we are seeing today. So really, those who are talking about science and ingenuity, the Quran have mentioned everything. Allah said, وَلَقَدْ صَرَفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانَ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. We have indeed explained in this Quran everything. كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. Nothing. مَا فَرَقْنَا فِي كِتَابٍ شَيْءٍ. Nothing will live outside the Quran. You know, in England or English country, they're celebrating one important scientist by the name of Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is the first human being or the first scientist who specialized on physiology, the in-depth blood circulation of humans and animals. He was the first to deduce all the blood circulation, what happened in the system, the food, the blood, the pancreas, all these things. William Harvey, he died 500 years ago in 1565. We're talking about 500 years ago. He was a celebrity because he was the first to make mention about what is happening in the animals especially. William Harvey, in his book, The Dark Room, he's talking about the dark room, the darkest part of the human, which is, the digestive system. He's a specialist on that one. And he was given Sir. In England, because of his aptitude in knowledge, they gave him Sir William Harvey. Specialized on blood circulation, the human excretes. You should get the book, William Harvey. Go and check it out. William Harvey, or Sir William Harvey. He make mention about different type of animals, how their digestive system works. We say, Mr. William Harvey, you are late. The Quran mentioned all these things. without any laboratory in Mecca or Medina. Allah said, وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَإِبْرَةً نُسْقِيكُمْ فِي بُطُونِ مِنْ بَيْنِ فَرْسٍ وَدَمٍ لَبَنًا خَالِصًا سَائِغًا لِلشَّارِبِينَ. Look at the وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَإِبْرَةً. Most certainly, Allah said, in the life or in cattle are lessons for you. We give you to drink something white and pure, which is palatable to drink. That drink came from the conjunction of blood and the excrement. How can the blood and excrement be together? Definitely that whiteness of the milk will be tainted by the blood. But that is where milk came from. Long before William Harvey came with his classical information, the Quran mentioned that 1,000 years before William Harvey. Nuskikum, you drink fi butun, from the system of the cattle. Min bayni farthin wa dam. Allah is saying that the milk that we enjoy and cherish, the sweetness, came from the conjunction between the blood and the excrement of the cattle. This is mind-boggling. This is nowhere to be found in the 7th century. So, Professor Maurice Bucaille, a French surgeon, a mathematician, he wrote a book after accepting Islam. And he said, the Quran have presented a genuine challenge to mankind, leaving only one alternative, that this Quran must be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, because knowledge of all this is nowhere to be found in the 7th century. How could a man in the desert without any computerization be able to give us information that is consistent with modern science? Impossible for anyone. Then he said, not Muhammad, not the Sahaba, no one. You have to have, at the end, Maurice Bucaille said, the only way that Muhammad Sallam should be able to give this information, he have to have a huge computer hidden somewhere in the desert, where if everybody go to sleep, Muhammad somehow will slip around and bring the computer and calculate and you know what I'm saying, just work with it. He said that's the only way, that Muhammad must have computer somewhere hidden. But Muhammad does not have no computer. So then you have to account. There is another white woman by the name Professor Ann Beatts, one of the best social thinkers in America. This is what she said. She said, it is safe to say that Muhammad received the Quran from on high. It is safe to say that. Because if you say Muhammad wrote the Quran from his own mind, you have a big problem. And that problem is, you should be able to tell mankind, how could he have given us information that is 21st century information when we found that in the 7th century? Explain to us. She said, you cannot explain. So therefore, just accept it. This is the man of knowledge. Men of knowledge, ulul albab, people who think, they analyze and they come to conclusion. Science is not proving Quran right. No. It is not. The Quran is there long time. Science progresses. It changes all the time until it becomes clear. There is one information that I think I should give it out. Most of the time we read this verse in the Quran and we understand it to be what we are told about the interpretation or the meaning of that verse of the Quran. And that is true. That is the miracle of the Quran. At the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was told was perfect for the understanding of the time. What we know today in terms of development, they've never seen that. So whatever the interpretation that was given to them at that time is consistent with their time. Today, again, because of advancement in technology, the Quran again turn around and regurgitate itself to fit in today. The interpretation of the Quran fits in today's technology. 50 years to come, our children's children will read the Quran and they will explain it befitting the time that they exist. That is the miracle. The Quran is for yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is the miracle. So you read this verse in Surah Al-Ankabut. It has two faces. I'll try to give both. Look at the verse that Allah said. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ تَخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ كَمَثَلِ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ تَخَذَتْ بَيْتًا. Then Allah said, وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ. I want you to underline the word أَوْهَن. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ لَبَيْتُ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ بَتْ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah said, the similitude of those whom you take to protect you. Don't you see that they build their house like the spider's house? Those who you want them to protect you. Allah said, these people, look at their house. Then Allah said, oh, وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ. The most horrible of all houses is that of the spider. If you know the implication of this parable. Awhan means horrible. Something that have no, if a spider build a house, it live in its apartment. You could see the spider. Look at the spider. That's your house. You could see the house. It's a horrible house. You could just take your finger, destroy it within a minute. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ. The most horrible houses is that of the spider. Today, inshallah, scientifically, I'm going to give you what is happening in the house of the spider, according to scientists. We have over 2,000 spider species all over. Some of them as big as this spider. Some even big, the tarantula. In the Amazon rainforest of South America, I've seen a spider gizmo, and I was like, subhanallah. Big. It can catch chicken or small lamb. A newborn lamb, the spider will grab it. Can you imagine that? Those spiders can be found in the rainforest of the Amazon. We have over 2,000 spider species. All of them have one thing in common. That is, they spawn the web with a gland that comes out of them. Most spiders are blind. So recently, through studying animals, science are telling us today the word awhan that the Quran said, وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ, the most horrible of all houses. But if you go deep in the lexical Arabic connotation of the meaning, the in-depth meaning of awhan, it also means a horrible, scary, physical, and mental horror. Awhan, distress. Why so? Wallahi, less than 50 years, a German scientist gave us an in-depth research about the spider. The spider's female spider is always 2 or 3 times bigger than the male spider. If the male came and mate with the female spider, at the end of the mating, she eats him. You know that? 95% or maybe 98% of the chances are if he mates with her, she ends up eating him. And he knows she will eat him, but he sacrifices his life for that. So scientists are bewildered about that. Now they come to understand that if she eats the male spider, there are certain nutrients that he is the one that has it that will make her egg to be good size and produce beautiful, healthy spiderlings. That is the first horror. Awhan, horrible house. Wallahi, when I read that, I took it to University of Washington in Seattle, Washington, and I went to Faculty of Zoology. They told me that's the truth. Then I make sujood shukur to glorify Allah. Say Allahu Akbar. She eats him because in his body there are some nutrient that is good to lay beautiful egg that will produce healthy spiderlings. That's number one, horror in the house of spider. Number two, after 2 weeks, if the spider female bring forth the egg, now they've hatched. They're hungry. And now she's weak. She can't go hunting. Or she's thinking, if I go hunting, by the time I come back, some animal will eat my spiderling. So she stays. In doing so, she's hungry. So she eats some of the spiderlings. They're trying to run away, and she used her claws to catch them and eat them. That's horror. Awhan. The most horrible house. Allah used the word horrible. It's horror. You know the movie horror? People eating people. Horror. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ. Those who you think will protect you, their house is like the spider's house. Horror. They will eat you. So she eat the spiderling. And number 3, if the food is not forthcoming, the grown spiderling, the strong survive and the weak fall apart. So the young spiderling begin to eat one another. If you are not strong, your brethren and sisters will eat you. Another horror. It's like a movie house. They eat themselves. Horror. The final blow. If food is scarce, the spiderlings have grown. The female spider, she unleashes an instinct, killer instinct. She releases a pheromone. Some gas will come out of her hindback. That's the pheromone. Once she releases that, the spiderling, they will read that to mean, come and eat me. So they will rush on their mother and they eat her. They call that in science mathogeny. Mathogeny is the process whereby the spiderling eats their mom to survive. So when Allah said, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ تَخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ, those whom you think will protect you, can't you see that their house is a horror house? They're going to eat you. Allah said, oh, وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ Baytul Ankabut. The most horrible of houses is that of the spider. Then Allah said, Law kanu ya'lamun. If you know the implication of this word, Ya Salam, how could Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam make those statements which is consistent with modernity? Who told him? So Allah said, Lakinna Allah yashhadu bima anzala ilayka anzalahu bi ilmihi wa malaikatu yashhadu wa kafa billahi shahida. Allah, Ya Muhammad, whatever I reveal unto you, it is from my own fountainhead of knowledge. The angels who are around, they bear witness. Nay, I am the ultimate witness to see to it that what I've revealed is a fact. That is phase 1 of the spider's house. The second part is this. See, I live in New York City for like 20 years before moving to Seattle. When I was in school, I drive a taxi. Drive a yellow cab. Those of you who've been to New York, you see the yellow cab. Used to be a yellow cab driver for 14 years. I was driving the yellow and I was schooling, educating myself, supplementing, paying my school fees. I don't care about my friends. They buy houses all the time. They build houses upon houses. They drive. Me, I just say, you know what? I'm going to read. I'm hungry for education. So, on Wednesday, if you go to New York somehow, on Wednesday, they do open United Nations. People to visit. United Nations. Anytime you go, tell them you want to go to the Big Five. Where the Big Five, you know, the United States, Britain, I don't know, France, Russia, and China. This is where they sit. That is not right. Everybody will come and give a speech. Our Excellency President, he came. I was in New York. I was so happy. We went to see him when he came, United Nations. We greet him. So happy our president is here. He gave a speech, about 2.5 pages. But guess what? It's irrelevant. You nigger, get out of here. What you gonna tell us, man? Look at us, man. Coming from Africa. Fulani, a cow herder, a goat herder, a milk sponger like you. You're going to come to the United Nations and tell us what to do, man, please. But they'll give you the spotlight. You feel comfortable, but they don't need you. They don't need your word. They make that decision. 5 of them. The spider story befitting United Nations. I was giving a talk. I said, look, I have seen United Nations in the Qur'an. They said, come on, Mr. Mohamed Awal. You see United Nations? Please get out of here, man. United Nations in the Quran. I said, yeah, it's in the Quran. They say, Habra Allah. Ah, man, you too, attached with all this science. United Nations. I said, what? Are you surprised? As if couldn't Allah mention United Nations? He said, well, that's true. I said, well, Allah said, وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ فَاسْتَنَاهُ تَفْصِيلًا. So each and everything is in the Quran. So I came to give a lecture. And that lecture is so clear and succinct. Listen, United Nations, the same verse of the Ankabut. I'm asking the question, what is the emblem of United Nations? What is the flag of United Nations? Spider's web. What is inside that web? What is inside that spider's web? Globe, world map. To catch us, to eat us. Yes. They squeeze us, man. You want to catch fish? What do? You cast the net, right? It catches the spider. www.whatever. You want to catch information? That's what you do. So why would they choose spider's web as their emblem? That's the question. And then we are inside, man, we're in trouble. They're going to eat us. And they are eating us in one way or the other. Allah said, look, anything you run in United Nations, Allah said, look at it. Look at their house. It's like that of the spider. And wallahi, if you go and see where the big five sit, it's built with a glass. The glass is like a spider, like this and like this. It's like a dome. The inside. I said, Subhanallah. Ya salam. Allah said, don't you see their house is built like the spider's house? And Allah said, Law kanu ya'lamun. If you understand the implication of this spider. So the Quran is a book that mankind have to bow down to it. There is this first Quranic surah, Surah Al-Alaq, Quran 96. It contained 19 verses. But on verse 15, there is what Allah have mentioned, talking about most of the Imam Abdullah Maududi and most of the scholars' interpretation. I've read also Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi. He also make mention of that tafsir, that particular ayah. And he said, Qalla لَإِن لَمْ يَنْتَهِ لَنَسْفَحَ بِالدَّاسِيَةٍ نَاسِيَةٍ كَاذِبَةٍ خَاطِئَةٍ. This verse, they say, it refers to Abu Jahl. Because if Abu Jahl is traveling to Sham, just not to leave the messenger alone, he will come to his doorstep, insult him, call him all the names under the sun, hoping that that insult will represent him as he leaves Mecca. Just not to leave him alone. So Allah sent this quotation. Qadda, let him be careful. If he does not stop, we shall hold him by his forehead. Don't forget this word. By his forehead. A lying and sinful forehead. The Quran mentioned the part of the brain that is responsible for lying. Aaron said, Mr. Mohamed or Mr. Kamal, you lied to me. I don't say, Mr. Shireen, you lied to me. I don't say your forehead lied to me. I don't say, Abu Bakr, your forehead. How do I know? I don't know where the lie come from. But the Quran mentioned the part of the brain that is responsible for lying. If he does not stop, we shall seize him by the forehead, a lying and sinful forehead. Scientifically, the brain, the cerebrum, this is the prefrontal cortex, and this is the cerebrum. It houses the brain. The brain is divided on different levels. But the forehead does two things. The forehead of any human being, it does wicked things. At the same time, it does good things. It has two motivations. It is a motto that whatever you're thinking wickedly, you know what? wallahi zan kafa markusa kwanan nan Allah kuwa ba zan yadda ba wallahi kaza da kaza. Whatever you, so it comes from your brain, from your forehead. And if you say, man, Malam Kamal is a very good man, inshallah, whatever I get, I'm gonna make sure I give him $10,000, which I don't have. Don't expect it, man. I'm just saying, this is a metaphor, man. And take it serious, man. I am broke. Talking about $1,000, man. So what happened is that Allah mentioned the part that is responsible. Scientists knew that when they developed this mechanism called MRI. You have it in the hospital, magnetic resonance imaging. They put you inside that, MRI machine. They put electrolysis on your forehead, on your ear, whatever. They put it inside. If they want to know which part of the brain is responsible for lying, which part of the brain responsible for hunger, which part of the brain is responsible for being smart, they put electrolysis all around it. They put you in there and they begin to watch. So if they want to know this part is lying, the part that is lying will begin to blink and they will cycle out. The part that is responsible for being intelligent will begin to blink. The brain is complex brain. So when they build MRI, magnetic, it magnifies and resonates the part of your brain. And then it images it and bring it out. So they can tell clearly this part is responsible for this and that. So science are saying that the motivational part of the brain that causes you to think good and act wickedly is from the brain. The Qur'an mentioned that. Let him be careful. If he did not stop, we shall hold him by his forehead, a lying and sinful forehead. How could the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Arabian desert be able to understand that the brain is actually, responsible of lying comes from the part of your brain? An American president, vice president by the name Al Gore, Al Gore, Clinton era, he was the vice president. He championed the cause of global warming, traveled all over the place giving advice on global warming. Global warming is caused mostly by us. We created that. There is no leaf anymore. We cut down trees. We allow the sun to come direct on us, and therefore it destroys so many things. The gamma ray, the ultraviolet ray, and so many different rays. Some are not good to get into our soil, but we allow that to happen. Why? Because we are satiated by cutting down trees. The animals don't even know where to go anymore because we cut down trees, build houses, and so the animals, they don't know where to go. The sun is coming direct on us. So the global warming, the earth is so warm. Back in the days when I was growing up, there was a time that we call it tree planting day. I don't know if some of you have remembered that. We plant trees. All schools, we come out and we plant trees so that we get vegetation, cool. The sun does not come and directly have effect on our body. So what happened is that the global warming is being championed today by intellectuals. They are saying that we should be careful because if you go to the North Pole, the iceberg is melting so fast. I was in Alaska many times, and anytime I go, when we visit on Pacific Ocean, in the hinter part of the Alaskan terrain where there is a glacier and all this, you see an ice, maybe 50-story building. Ice packed on top of each other, but now they are melting at an alarming rate, meaning if the snow is melting, that means the level of the sea will what? Will rise. So the sea is rising, and so far we have 71% sea and 29% land. Our land is too small. Water have taken a part of it. And then we have global warming. The ice is melting. If care is not taken, within 45 years, Scandinavia will submerge in the water. Yes, Scandinavia, they will submerge in the water. If the rate at which the snow is melting keep on going at that rate, Scandinavia will melt. And part of Africa will melt. The southern part of Africa, South Africa, some part of South Africa, and Rhodesia, and Madagascar will also sink because of the sea level is rising. They call that global warming. And the Quran mentioned that. long time ago in the Arabian desert, without any marine technology, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through inspiration, Allah said in the Qur'an, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا نَاتِي الْأَرْضَ نَنْقُصُهَا مِنْ أَطْرَافِهَا وَاللَّهُ يَعْقُمْ لَا مُعَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ وَهُوَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. Do they not see how we are reducing the land from under their feet? Subhanallah. Wherever Allah sends a command, no one can overturn that command. Allah is telling the scientists, marine biologists, that the land is actually rising. If the land is rising, it is taking the land. So do they not see how we are reducing the land from under their feet? That is an injunction that scientists are questioning. One scientist, Professor Qur'an, who specialized on marine, he's a marine scientist. Professor Qur'an, he's a scientist, he's a Frenchman. He go deep. Sometimes he live in the depth of the ocean with a small, submarine. He lives there for like few months, studying the seabed. This is what I'm not going to do that. Shoot, not crazy to go live down in the water, man. What if some whale swallows me? I ain't going there, man. I love life. But these scientists, man, they sacrifice themselves. I respect them a lot. They go and live there, studying the water. What is there? This and that. Sometimes they don't get paid just to make name, and it will benefit mankind. Professor Qur'an is one of them. When he was shown this ayah, مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما لا يبغيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. Maraja, two bodies of water, they meet together, but there is a partition. I saw the partition. I didn't go there, but I saw the partition in United States Geological Society, where they show Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, where they meet. They meet at a place called the Seal of Gibraltar. Look at the world, the Seal of Gibraltar. The word Gibraltar, most of you read in geography, the coast of Gibraltar. No, he's an Arab, he's an Arabian, he's a Muslim. When Allah sent this ayah, Maraj al-Bahrain, yaltaqiyani baynahuma barzaq la yabghiyan. These two bars of water meet, they don't become one homogeneous. There's a partition in between them. So this professor back then in Baghdad, he said, partition, they don't meet. So he was thinking. That's when the Muslim scholars begin to think about the Quranic verses. So eventually he followed two bodies of water, the salt water and the fresh water. So he saw a place. It's near, Maghrib area, close to Greek. At that time, the water is not that big. Today the Gulf is so much. Used to be, you could just cross over. So he stayed there and he saw the two places that two bodies of waters meet. So he pitched a tent on a rock. Wallahi, that's where he sleeps. He pitched a tent and he stayed there for like 2 months, studying the tide of the water. What happened? These two waters, they meet. True, they don't become one homogeneous. The fresh water will enter the salt, come out. This will enter and come out. There's a partition, a forbidden part that they don't meet. So scientists, they don't know how to call this Arabic name. Al-Jabal al-Tariq. His name is Tariq. They say this is where Jabal, this is the mount in Arabic, Jabal. This is where At-Tariq pitched his tent and he lived there to study the dichotomy of these two waters. At-Jabal al-Tariq, Jabal al-Tariq, the Gibraltar, Jabal al-Tariq. But they don't tell you and I. They wish they can expunge the contribution of Islam in the modern science. Even Mozambique is Musa ibn Ubayk. He's a tabi. Musa ibn Ubayk is in the Tashkent Museum. You go to Timbuktu, you see the book clear. The first Muslim who crossed over to the part of Africa, in the eastern part of Africa. What he did was he stayed there and he gave them Islam. They took Islam. When he lived for a long time, but he died there. When he died, the whole nation cried for more than 2 months. They are crying. What a good man. What a man. What an angel walking the earth. His name is Musa ibn Ubayk. Again, the Westerner said, Mozambique. So no Mozambique. Musa ibn Ubayk. This is in the annals of history. They're hiding it because they don't want you and I to know. I was one time, ya Sheikh, wallahi, I was one time in my house back in the state. I was just resting, watching TV, changing the channels. I flipped to the channel and I saw a Caucasian, a white guy, came on TV. And among his ranks, they write, he's a specialist on the Fulani tribe. I said, what? This white guy with a white, blue eye, he's a specialist on the Fulani tribes? I said, man, I am Fulani. So how come this man is a specialist in my village? How could he be specialist? Did he speak Fulani? I don't understand. See how they give themselves titles? Man, that means we have to start reading and writing our own books. So they write our books. So when they write it, it becomes his story about you and I. History. That's his story. His story. That's what he said. History. Where's our story? So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to save that history. Later I'm going to give it up to you, inshallah. We'll come back after this commercial break. Don't go to anywhere. Welcome back. So I was talking about the history of Islam, that we don't do a lot. We don't read more. We don't write our own books. Most of the books that we read today is written by Orientalists, and a lot of them contain error. And they say a lot of things. So when they write their books, it becomes history. That is his own story that he wrote. The question is, where is our story? Once they're done writing the history, what did they put it? In the library. See, they lie about you and they bury it. It becomes a library. That's what they do. So if you go to the library, look at the collection of the bibliothèque. How long is it going to take you to sift through and get the facts? They sweep it under the rocks. That's why at the very beginning Allah wants us to read. At the very beginning Allah said you should read. Iqra. So Allah mentioned knowledge twice. From Iqra up to Malam Ya'lam, He mentioned knowledge twice and He mentioned pen once. Pen and knowledge are synonymous in any institution of learning. Allah is giving us that urge to read and write. And history bear record. In the 9th century, which is the golden age of Islam, the Muslims did so much to give or push, the Europeans into Renaissance and force them to think critically. So most of them have to speak Arabic language. They came to the Arabic world, they learned the Arabic language, and they read from the Islamic books. That is a fact. So eventually they burned all these books. They burned about 5 or 6 times, keep on burning the books to bury everything. They took the part that they won, but they destroyed all the Islamic books that the ancient antiquities have left for mankind. That's what they did. But now it's about time that we have to rise up to be in the forefront of knowledge. The only way we could do that is to read. The men and women should read. If you educate a man, it's just one person you educate. Educate a woman, you educate the whole nation. Give them education, because they are the ones that have the children. They nourish them, they nurture them with education. Education is powerful. I'm not going to get deep into one of the signs that I'm going to be mentioning because of lack of time. Just mention, inshallah, we'll come back for part 2. Let me just throw this in. Recently, scientists realized that in the womb of a pregnant woman, the babe is in 3 different sacs. When the babe, after the gametes from the sperm, if a man releases the sperm, he releases over 500 million spermatozoids in the womb of the mother, of the woman. Out of these 500, just one get to enter into the ovum for it to, be implanted. And eventually that's where we came from. But once we reach 5 to 6 months, we enter into a zone, and that zone is divided in 3 components. Science called that omnium, chorion, and decidua, or the abdominal wall, uterus, membrane, or the myometric, andrometric, epimetric. Three. The human being is in three different layers. This is embryology and human physiology. Any embryology book, primary book, would mention that omnium, chorion, and decidua. Amniotic membrane, chorionic membrane, and decidua. Three different sacs. So the baby's in the sac, in the sac, in the sac. So Professor Keith Elmore, who is a professor emeritus who specialized on embryology, he was presented with the Quranic verses and asked him to give some statement on it. So what he did was, after reading the Quranic verse, he said, who wrote this? He said, well, it's in the Quran. He said, what do you mean? Which Quran? He said, well, that's what God gave it to Muhammad. He said, when? You know how the science. He said, about 1,400 years ago. So no, that's not possible. This is modern information. How could, no. Knowledge of this sort can be found in the 7th century. No. This is modern science. This is us. Look, I'm an embryology, and I'm telling you, no one knows this. We knew this less than 100 years ago. When we developed some mechanism, we could see through. Are you talking about 1,400? No, please, stop playing, man. Ain't no time to play. We said, no, this is not a joke. So we opened the Quran. Professor Keith Elmore, he scanned the verse. The Quran said, يَحَلُقُكُمْ في بطون أمهاتكم حلقا من بعد حلق في ظلمات ثلاث. We created you from the womb of your mothers, from one stage to the next stage, in 3 veils of darkness. Subhanallah. Why didn't Muhammad say 2 or 5 or 6? Let him guess. So he guessed right. No. The chances for this to happen in the 7th century is like Googleplex to 0. Which is, there's no way out. You can't quantify that. So scientists have to explain as to how in the world could a man living in the desert make a profound statement that is so consistent with modern science. That proves that the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah is the one that protects all the Quran. We don't have no Qurans. We have one Quran. The moment you write another Quran, we will catch you. We have thousands and millions, men and women, memorize the Quran from cover to cover. So how can you manipulate the Quran? But me, I have the Hindu Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and Purana Vedas. I have 6 different each, but they are different. The Old Testament, I have about, 15 different. In the New Testament, I have a lot, a whole lot. And they keep doing new ones. In the year 2028, we're waiting. The new Bible is coming out. Wallahi. It's been created in Brooklyn Institute of Bible something institution. This is supposed to come a few years ago, but they're scared now. But they have to bring it out. Where it's supposed to be he, referring to God, they make it he stroke she. Women rights, yeah. Women need to, why should God be macho? A man has got to be women too. So he, she. Allah said, أَفَلَا تَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ إِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِي اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Don't you look at the Quran with care? Had it been someone write the Quran, there would have been so much contradiction. Allah said, my time is up. I'm going to reserve the rest for my next, the scientific miracles of Quran. This is part 1. So we do, if there is time, I could do part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, up to part 11. It's a different Islamic science. This is just a small segment of a thing that we've done. So definitely I'm going to stop here, because the way you're looking at me, you want me to continue. I keep on talking, my saliva is going to finish. And so, هذا بالله التوفيق وآخر الدعوان الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Those of you or us who are in health, may Allah give us more health. Anyone that is doing your business, may Allah put barakah in your business. Those of you who are looking for a job, may Allah give you the job. Those of you who don't have job, may Allah give you good job and better job. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم يا مجيب دعائنا ولا تقطع رجاءنا بموت نبينا مولانا يا الله يا رب العرش العظيم. اللهم صل على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى كل ملائكة المقربين وعلى عباد الله الصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.